Hello and welcome to episode 104 of the Stateside Soccer Show. Look at that little switcheroo there. It's like into the lead seat here. I'm back. I only missed one, right? So.
Oh no, actually, I did like 10 episodes without you.
What?
And I'm just going to surprise you with what kind of content they are.
Well, I can see it right here. It's 103. So yeah, we're on 104.
I don't count well. We've been over this.
But it feels good to be back. It felt like I was gone longer than I was, and really, if you hadn't recorded yesterday, I really would have missed no episodes. And I was only gone for like 3 full days, or whatever. So, but it's good to be back. I had Logan updating me the whole plane ride back for the NYCFC Champions League game because I was on my flight and I had free texting, but wouldn't you know it, Southwest did not have FS2 on their list of channels for me to watch.
Of course they didn't. That's usually how it works.
So I watched some Disney Plus and then I watched some curling. So
curling's fascinating. Like I've always watched it, and I'm like, I have to get back into like understanding it again. But once I start to understand it again, I'm like, okay, this is fun to watch. And then
every 4 years, I'm like, wait, what are the rules again? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Jordan, there was a married couple on curling, and I was like, that could probably go really poorly. I would think that would be just very stressful in your marriage. If you're like an Olympic couple that did curling and that's all you did, but every 4 years you go out there and try to compete, and you had to qualify for it.
And if you lose, like the drive home is like...
Believe you were that awful. Like,
yeah.
This is all your fault.
I told you we needed to curl it more, but you stopped brushing.
How do you think they practice with, brushing their teeth in the mirror or something? Like, is that how you?
No, they do actually curling places.
Gotcha. Understand. Okay. I was just confused by the whole situation.
No, it was wild because I was actually, I was watching the girls' doubles, women's doubles, and they said, some of these people were like teachers and stuff like that have a second, not a second job. This is not a job for them, curling, but like, that kind of the stories we hear about other nations for like soccer players at times, where they're a plumber and
dentist.
They're also one of them was a dentist actually. One of them was a dentist and one of them was like a teacher or something, I think that. But yeah, interesting. To tie it back together, USA used to have that type of situation. Now we don't. Now we have professionals for soccer. So there you go, tying it back into Stateside Soccer Show. So, Logan, what are we doing today?
Oh, today's going to be chaos. Just like CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, it's chaos, right? I think we're fitting into the theme of the week. But we're going to deep dive into some of these teams that we were talking about yesterday, or I was talking about yesterday on the episode. And I got to see NYCFC play. So that was exciting. I got to see actually what a team will look like when they go to Field 1 this year. And to be honest, Jordan, I thought that they played extremely well. They controlled the ball. They had moments where they just couldn't control things because they were sloppy. There was a lot of stuff going on in the back line that needed to be cleaned up. But I think a lot of that had to do, and there was one in particular, Sean Johnson yelled at, I believe it was, I want to say it was Chanot, but I think that he went to pass one back and he caught up in one of the defenders. And so then Santos was going the other direction and took a shot from, it had to be almost 50 yards out and about went in. It was like one of those heat-seeking missiles towards the goal because Sean Johnson had come way out to have the ball passed back to him, but the defender didn't get it there. So, but that my whole tangent was we're going to be covering NYCFC, the Revs. Then we're going to go over to Montreal, visit there, and not literally, but because that'll be a long travel and you just got back. But and then the Rapids in Seattle, Jordan. And then I want to get your thoughts. So actually, you know what, Jordan? I want to get your thoughts now because I just recorded an episode. And I know I'm just kind of putting you on the spot here. New England is advanced because the team that they were supposed to play cannot travel. And
I was going to say, I thought the Revs looked really good in their PCL match.
Jordan, do you think that New England gets to the next round? Was the serious question.
The next round after that, or
no, just the round that they're already getting pushed through.
No, I don't. Okay. I think that we got a little surprise coming up here.
They enter LAFC. It's like, this is fun.
No, they'd be playing for NYCFC. Yeah.
I think that what they should have done, they should have like alternate teams that like, okay, well they dropped out. Like they knew this like a week ago, so
It
they
was
should
due
have
to
had like
visa issues,
yeah
right? Is that what it
yeah
was?
yeah. It was all visa issues that they couldn't get into the country because they couldn't play. They were actually going to play in Jamaica, but then Jamaica was like, no, we don't want your here. You don't want your stuff here. So interesting stuff. But Jordan, I did want to ask CCL. Do you think we have an MLS team win it this year? They don't have the big legendary Mexican clubs like Monterrey. They don't have Club America playing. They don't have what was the other one that I was missing? I'm missing one. Oh man, I just blanked on it. Well, anyway, blanked on that. But Tigres. They don't have Tigres playing. Do you think the MLS has a team win it this year?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I've been a fool for saying yes to that question for so many years. And you may not have some of those teams, but Santos is a huge team in Mexico and has notoriously gotten Seattle a couple times in this competition.
Montreal too.
Yeah, so I would say no. I think it'll be another Mexican team because I think our hope of winning it comes down to the League's Cup. And what I mean by that is constantly playing each other in the League's Cup is going to make teams that have not had this experience be able to get that experience. Mm-hmm. Let's look at it this way. You're a Manchester City fan.
Yeah.
And when they first qualified for the Champions League, they did not make a deep run.
Mm-hmm.
It took years of them constantly getting into that competition and also, upgrading their squad, but also just to get to a final, which then they, did not win.
Of course they don't.
Pep choked. So then we get the issue with MLS is why we love MLS. We love MLS because it is not already a 16-point lead 3 weeks into a season that's going to, the way City's running away with the title over in England. We don't have that here. We can have running away with Supporter Shield, but when it comes to MLS Cup, that's going to change. And the winner of the Supporter Shield has not been consistent, right? LAFC in 2018, 2019. 2020 was Philadelphia Union. Then you have the Revs in 2021. Meaning that a lot of the teams that end up qualifying for this tournament don't qualify multiple years in a row, which means they get this experience once and then might have to take a few years to get here unless if they're Seattle. That's pretty much it. Seattle's consistently in the tournament for either their U.S. Open Cup wins when they first started winning the U.S. Open Cup, to their MLS Cup wins, to Western Conference wins, whatever they're doing to get into the competition. The only other team that's been able to consistently get there recently, I feel like, is Atlanta, and that was mainly because COVID canceled the U.S. Open Cup, that they won it twice in a row or whatever and kept qualifying in. So that is kind of the big issue with when we look at, okay, we want an MLS team to win Champions League, but the way we're structured doesn't allow the same teams to really continue to win over and over again to qualify for the competition, which means that we're not constantly going up against these opponents. So when a Philadelphia, makes a semifinal run last year, that's great, but that was their first time doing it. Guess what? They're not in it this year. So all that experience now goes away because probably by the time they qualify for it again, going to be some probably turnover in that's going to be a little different. So I think that's the issue with MLS teams winning the Champions League as it stands right now. Now, could that change? Yeah, it can change whenever, if a team goes on a run or whatever, I guess. But right now, I feel like if our teams like Seattle are not constantly getting to a final and close to winning, they're the ones in the competition like all the time. The League's Cup can change that next summer. The League's Cup, as we remember, for everybody that may not remember, all teams in both competitions are going to be playing and taking a break from their league games to play in the League's Cup, as confusing as that sounds when I just said league games and League's Cup. But they're going to be stopping the MLS schedule and the Liga MX schedule for a League's Cup. Everybody's going to take part in that, which means every team is getting the experience of facing the Mexican teams. The Mexican teams are the best teams in CONCACAF. So while they may not get the experience of facing a Saprissa or other, teams in Central America and CONCACAF, it's going to help them face off against the best ones that when they face even, I feel like, littler teams in CONCACAF and get that first experience whenever they qualify for it, they're going to have that experience to kind of look back on that every year they're playing in the League's Cup. And I don't know, I feel like we might actually have a better chance of a League's Cup winner being American than a Champions League winner being American, actually.
Yeah,
maybe not in 2023, but maybe 2024.
I was just interested to hear your thoughts because I naively picked the Sounders to win it. And the argument I make, and we can talk about the Sounders next if this kind of is a good transition, but I believe the Sounders have guys that have played in big competitions. I mean, you're looking at Nuhu, you're looking at Jordan Morris, you're looking at Rui Diaz, you're looking at the Roldans. They've both played in South America. They know what these teams are like. I think they're the best built roster. Now, we'll get into this later on because NYCFC, and we can talk about it now, but NYCFC last night, and I know you didn't get to see him, if they had James Sands in that team, I do think that they were deep enough to make a good run. However, the problem is they're going to have to run up against the Sounders, and I don't think that if they both advance, I just don't see where NYCFC is going to win that, just because I think the Sounders are very good, and I do think that NYCFC, while they are the MLS Cup winners, I don't know. That's hard to sustain in this league. It's hard to, repeat as a title winner or as repeat as one of the top teams. I do think they're going to be good, but I don't know. I was looking at that team last night, and the three that they have, the big three that they have that are young, were tremendous until Santiago Rodriguez got carded and thrown out, which was bogus, by the way. I think that those three, between Tiago, between Taz Magno, and then Santiago Rodriguez, Maxi Morales, and then Tati Castellanos, I felt like they were primed to make a deep run. And then I saw it all together last night, and I was like, man, this is a tough team. It sucks, though. Doesn't it seem like this is always the case? Like two of the biggest teams that the MLS could have, they always put them in the same side to where they have to beat each other to go through the next round. Like if Seattle and NYCFC were in different sides and they could place the Revs also, I think those are three powerhouses. But instead, it's going to have to be the Sounders they're going to have to bounce NYCFC to get to that next round to get into deeper into this competition. But I don't know. NYCFC looked good, but like you said, it's tough because you got like clubs like Santos, and they've been known to bounce people. Puma's playing really well, and they usually are not a team that is too threatening. I think if you looked at the sheet and you saw Pumas, you wouldn't think of them as being one of the big Mexican teams that we always struggle with. Leon hasn't been playing well. Pumas has started to turn around, but then you also look down at the bottom of that bracket and there's Cruz Azul, and it's like, okay, well, everybody knows that name, and they're playing extremely well. And like you said, it's tough, really tough to beat a lot of those Liga MX teams, especially coming into the season. We haven't even started, and then coming in the competition, these teams have already played a first half of their season or on their second leg of their season, and we're having to try to compete with them while trying to get players in. So should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so where do we want to go next?
What I don't know. This is
do
tough.
We want to preview?
There's so many good teams that we're going to get to preview today. Which we have. You know what? Actually, let's start with. I don't mean this to be mean, but let's start with Montreal because I give them the least chance, especially now that they've gone down 1-0 in the first leg.
And I'm going to say this because Logan, sometime during the game yesterday,
it was right after Kyoto scored.
Tweets, I am done underestimating Montreal. And then immediately comes on here before we start recording saying, Yeah, I don't think they can do it. I said you just said you're
No, I
done
said they weren't going to
underestimating
be
them.
as good as they were last year, Jordan.
Right. That's underestimating them.
Okay, hear me out,
Thinking they're
Montreal
going to
fans.
do worse than they
They're
did
going to come
last
after me
year.
again. They're going to come after me again. It's the only fan base that really came after us after our previews last year.
Yeah.
I think them and I forget who, somebody else did, but it was just kind of fun to have that conversation. And we're wrong. Jordan and I will admit firsthand, like, we are not one to hide it. One, you can go back and listen to it and then figure out how wrong we are. There it is.
I know. I always said Montreal was going to be really good. I think you edited this predictions thing wrong.
Jordan, didn't you have them like winning Supporter Shield at one point?
I had them wherever they finished at. Where did they finish?
Eighth.
Eighth, 10th. I had them.
Or yeah, sorry, they fell all the way down because Orlando knocked them out. You're welcome.
I'm just kidding. It's 14th. I had them 14th. You had them 14th. We had them wooden spoon, which is silly. We had Cincinnati in 9 and 10, which is silly.
So let's start with Montreal, Jordan, because I think, one, I think they're a team that I think if I was rating teams to have success in CCL, they were not high on my list just because the route they had to take. They have to go through Santos, and Santos is, like you said, a monsters club in Mexico, and playing at home in Santos, the first match out, that was never going to be easy. I will say, though, they're going back to Montreal, Jordan, and we know what happens in Montreal. It's going to be about 1 degree up there in Hamilton again, and they're going to have that advantage. Do I think they can come back? No, I don't. I just don't. I'm not underestimating them, Jordan. Santos is just a good team, okay? But you want to start there? Then we can kind of go Santos. Let's do Santos and then stay in the East. We can do NYCFC and then the Revs, or the Revs and then, let's do Revs and NYCFC, and then we'll do Rapid Sounders.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk.
And we're doing this again for people that did not know, because we have 9 days until the season starts. So we have to pick up a little bit of the pace because it's been a shorter off season. So we've kind of had to speed up here. And we're going to do 3 or 4 teams an episode here. So we're starting with Montreal.
Yeah. 10th in the East, 12 wins, 10 draws, 12 losses. Goals allowed, 46. 44. They scored 46, +2 goal differential. And Jordan, a team that you and I, again, we alluded to it then, that we just didn't have very high. Why can you remember back? Why didn't we have them high? Was it mostly the attack? I mean, I think we just underestimated how good Georgi Mihailovic was going to be.
No, I don't think I took in anything with Mihailovic. I think it was more of a Thierry Henry left them really not long before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't really know how Nancy was going to how good Nancy was going to be as a coach. So it was a little bit of a I think that's where we were kind of coming from, and that we didn't think they had added enough. Which, to be fair, I don't think they did, but I think they just got them playing in a way that made them very threatening, and they were actually in a playoff spot for a good chunk of the season, but ultimately fell short of that. They finished with 46 points, which, if you look at 2019, is enough to get you in the playoffs. But 2021, you're 3 spots out of the playoffs. So it really is, that sometimes that's the way it is. Like the Revs made it into playoffs in 2019 with 45 points. Looking at 2018, Montreal missed it by 4 points. They finished with 46 points, which I think is what I just said they finished last year with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And 50 points was the Union in 6th place of 2018. 2017, I'm really just trying to look at ones that have games played of 34 to really kind of match this. Montreal finished 9th with 39 points. So consistently underperforming. I guess is what we would say. And usually in the 30s, late 30s to mid 40s for points. The reason I started looking back at that is I was wondering, okay, is there any sort of consistent level of how many points you need to qualify for the playoffs? And the answer is no. The answer is no. It could be anywhere from, like I said, I think the Revs had 45 as the 7th team. New York Red Bulls this year had 48. So they missed it by 2 points. You kind of have to get, I would say, if I'm going to try to make the playoffs, I'm trying to get 50 points. So if they need to get 4 more points, I think they could do that. I think their ceiling is probably somewhere around, and this is last year's I'm showing here, but I'm just need to get an eye for some of the positions. I'd say their ceiling is probably in that 8th through 10th spot. With maybe, well, I guess that's more where I'm thinking their floor is. Their ceiling could be that 6th or 7th spot. I do think they can make it in. Nashville, remember, is not in the East, so we have an open playoff spot. There's going to be a few teams going for that. You know, Columbus, we all had, you know, Chris Smith put on Twitter the other day. Did you see this? Yeah. About what your worst predictions were. And I commented that, one, I had Minnesota winning MLS Cup last year, but I also commented, and like most people, I had the Crew winning the East and got nowhere close. The Crew finished in 9th, which was almost 30 points below the Revs in first. Only 1 point from a playoff spot. But, you know, they're going to be in the hunt again, right? They're going to be maybe a little bit more rejuvenated. They just had a down year. So they're going to be a team that want to take that extra playoff spot. You have DC under Hernan Losada trying to get a playoff spot next year. You have Toronto, a huge revamped Toronto that has Bob Bradley. Insigne is coming. And, you know, so they have made some moves. So you have that going on. So what I'm saying is there's an opening, of course, with Nashville gone, but they're going to have to step it up because you also have teams like Toronto, Columbus, and DC that are also playing for that spot. And I think Toronto might actually already have leapfrog Montreal with some of the changes that that Toronto is making when you look at, you know, bringing in a Bob Bradley, bringing in Insigne in the summer. So it is worrying for them. That's why I kind of put them at most likely going to finish in that 8 to 10 spot and miss again. And I don't think that would be, I guess they'd be a little disappointed with that because that's where they finished last year. You want to see progress. But maybe progress is going from 10th to 8th, and even though they missed out by 2 points, maybe missing out by a point. But I do think it is possible for them to get 50 points, and I think 50 points is what it would take to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so looking at their team, they do go out. They got a couple guys on loan. It looks like they've just they've robbed Bologna of defenders. Gabriel Corbo, who actually played last night against Santos, and you know, he was good in the spots that he was in. And I think that's part of it, too, is Wilfred announced he's still playing around with the idea of, does he want to play a back three? Will he go more of like the three with the 2 wing backs on the side of them? Can they play in that kind of system? Is it going to be more of a 4-3-3? You know, what does that look like? I do have concerns. I mean, Victor Wanyama, a really good player, but I think at times, you know, he is starting to kind of show his age. I think with, you know, it is weird because you kind of put – I always seem to want to put him in the same kind of category that I do Blaise Matuidi, and Blaise Matuidi is getting ready to find his way. If not, he's already found his way out of the league. But when you looked at Victor, I mean, he's going on 30 or is 30, and you look at a guy in the midfield, and that's such an important part of this, you know, of this roster, an important part of this league is having a really good midfielder that can, you know, just destroy people and control that field, or, you know, that midfield defensively. And I think that's where, you know, I think ultimately when Montreal is looking at it, you want to be better than that with their goal differential. That's not a good goal differential. And I know, they were trying to find their ways last year. They needed more depth in that center back position. I think that's where they go and add a couple of these guys to the back line that are going to make them better. And then you also had Georgi Mihailovic playing at an absurd level. He ended up having 13 assists last year, Jordan. 13 assists, 4 goals in 2,800 minutes almost, which is insane. That's a lot of minutes played. I think that's pretty much close to playing about every match. So it's wild that he had that good of a season. My biggest concern is can Mason Toye, who's 22 years old, can he take a step forward? And can they get anything going forward besides, like a very average Romel Kyoto? Because I think Romel is a good forward, but he's never going to be great. His cap, Jordan, the most he's ever scored is 8 goals. He did that last year, and I don't think there's a ceiling above that. I just don't think that he gets that level, and nor does he ever play a full season, it seems. It seems like he's always had issues staying on the pitch, whether it be form or injury. I think that there's concern with that. Last night he scored a banging goal, but it was called back because of a foul. And, it had me excited because I was like, okay, cool. Maybe this gets him going and this gets him, on this team providing goals that they need, because I do think they're going to have a hard time they're going to have a hard time scoring, which is a lot of these teams that we're talking about today. I think there's going to be issues with them scoring. A lot of them, I think, too. But again, like you said, I think at 8 to 10 is where I would put them this year. They can get that 7 spot, but they're going to need goal scorers. I think, well, I can ask you this, Jordan. Do you think Montreal are playing meaningful soccer on decision day?
Yes.
Yeah. Because with Nashville leaving, that's such a big thing. But like you said, Toronto's coming. We have no idea what Inter Miami is going to look like. Like, that could actually work, what they're doing, where they blew up the whole thing and are just playing a lot of youth players. That could work. That could be exciting. That's good enough, I think, in this league if they play well too. I mean, Montreal figured this out. They've got a young team. You can play young players with a mix of really decent veterans and MLS experience, and Miami can go out and, find some of these players that are just, they can't be DPs, but they can find some of these players. I think Montreal has that issue too. They need some experience with these younger kids, because I think at times these younger kids are just overblown by the situation. Bjorn Johnson, who could be a really good forward, only had 2 goals last year, really had a hard time. I think people thought, I remember Extra Time doing interviews with him because they thought this kid was going to be up and coming. This kid was going to turn into something, Norwegian goal or striker, and he never ended up being what they should be. So it's a lot of young kids trying to figure out what they're doing, especially in this league. It's a tough league to kind of play in because of their physicality, but 8 to 10 is where I'm going to put them probably. And I don't think they're playing meaningful soccer on decision day. I'm going to go the opposite.
I think they will be. I think the East is so bunched up that I think, like last year, we will have a bunch of teams playing for meaningful points on decision day. I hope that's the case. It'll be boring if it's wrapped up by decision day, because that's the whole point of why it's called decision day. So I do hope there's something to watch on decision day other than just what placement the team is falling into. Okay. So are we moving on from Montreal? I will say Kyoto is my boy. So I
get that.
I will
love
not take
him.
the slander. I will not take the slander.
I'm sorry. I love him. I like who he is as a person. Like, I've heard him in multiple interviews. I really like who he is. He seems to have fun all the time when he's on the pitch. Last night when he's doing the celebration, he just looked like a guy that just loves playing soccer, and I love that about everybody. I want everybody to be like that. There's some guys that score, and I'm just like, you're just not having, like Gonzalo Higuain. He's just not had fun, and that's part of the whole thing. Like, have fun. And I think Gonzalo is going to get back to that this year. I think he's at least going to have fun. I don't think maybe the results are there just because he's aging, but I do think let's have fun. Like, I think Insigne is going to be the exact same thing for Toronto when he does come over. He's like a ball of energy. If you've ever watched him play, it's that they need. Toronto need that. They really need him to take at least just a little bit of a step forward, because they need at least 10 to 15 goals out of him to be, a solid playoff team.
I will say Higuain is not going to have fun this year.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think he has fun. I don't think he has fun, so I don't know. Look, Mason Toye has got 7 goals, I think, total
Yeah.
for Montreal in all competitions. Not
good.
To be honest, in 20 games, pretty good, because
decent,
at
yeah.
Minnesota he had 42 appearances, 7 goals. So I will say
improvement.
I think he might even improve a little bit more this year. He's still young. He's 23. But he's getting to the point where he's not going to be considered young soon. So, he's no longer in the 22 under 22, right? So we're going to have to keep an eye on him and see if he fulfills the promise that a lot of people thought he had. I like Mason Toy, so I hope he does figure it out and contribute to Montreal. I don't have any issues with Montreal. The only issue I would say is change your name back to Montreal Impact and lose this snowflake crest. This is awful.
Dude, that's so yeah, because it's actually snow. Okay.
Yeah.
One last thing, Jordan. Jordy Mihailovic is not better than Weston McKennie. I saw some sentiment on Twitter about Mihailovic getting a chance over Weston McKennie, and they were mad at the extra time people for not. Georgie Mihailovic, we've tried that experiment. It's not gone well. Not with the youth team, at least. Good player, but there's no way that he's better than really any of the midfielders that we have currently.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I don't think he's better than Weston McKennie.
I almost laughed. I think
that's all we have to say about that. Yeah. So, all right, I think we move on from Montreal. If you want to know where we're going to put them before the start of the season, we will have our
next week.
Yeah, we will have our full, thing, the prediction show that we've been showing from last year constantly on this. We will be doing that, and we'll be flashing it up just as much as we did this year. So we have to get the new crests on there, though. We got to get the new Rev crest on there and the new Fire crest, because
it's fire.
I'm so glad they've left this ugly crest behind. I don't know what they were thinking. It looks like something I can make on Canva to sell merchandise. Speaking of, let's take a quick break. If you want some merchandise, I got my Curtain is Open shirt. That came in this week. So I had that. I'm going to wear that around town when the Union kick it off. We've got 2 design options for that. You can get it on mugs, magnets, stickers, and more. And we also got We Are Fooked, our Charlotte FC merchandise, for when the coach referenced that they are screwed. He used more language than that in the Spanish, and Christian Fuchs. So we kind of put both those together, and we'll be doing a magnet giveaway of that. I got some magnets coming in. If you are a Charlotte fan and you somehow want a reference to your team being screwed, we will have merchandise for you. Or if you just think it's funny, you can enter into that. We'll have more information on that when the magnets come in, I guess. But yeah, we're going to continue to try to make stuff for all teams. I know so far we're kind of limited, but stick with us. We might have some more designs.
I feel like we're going to come up with some good stuff. I'm going to work on a couple things too that I think will work well with MLS that I know some of the MLB teams do, and it hasn't caught on to MLS. So I'll look out for that.
There you go. Oh, that's interesting.
Little teaser.
He hasn't even told me that, so now I'm teased.
I'll tell you after the show, Jordan. It's pretty funny.
Now I'm teased. Okay, so what team are we going?
Revs.
The Revolution.
Let's do it. This is sad because I love having the Revolution guys on. I love the Revolution recap. I love Greg.
We'll have him on during the season.
I love Chris. Yeah, we're going to definitely have him on. Let's just have the whole Revs Nation on. It'll be a lot of fun.
So they made it official that Matt Turner is going to Arsenal in the summer. They've lost Tejan. Was there any other big sellings? I don't think so, right?
No, Tejan Buchanan leaving.
Turner.
And like you said, Turner heading to Arsenal in the summer. I do want to ask you, Jordan, just because we're a U.S. men's national team podcast, just real quick, you can kind of just sum up. Good thing, bad thing, Matt Turner going to go probably back up Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, it's not good, right?
Well, I do like that he is staying here for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
So I do think that's good. It would have sucked if he had left now and had a rusty 2022. The chance he now has is to go in the summer and try to impress in preseason, where I actually think he probably could win the job.
Yeah.
It depends. So
U.S. is better than England anyway, so
I think you have to bet on yourself at times. And I think, and I didn't mind Stefan going to City at first, but I think if he can't win the job within a year or so, I think these players have to move on. That's where I'm at with Stefan. At first I was like, really, he's going to go to City and be a backup? And then he was a backup and he got some chances. And I was like, all right, cool. He's getting worked in every so often. But now it's been like 2 or 3 years. And I think it'd be best if he went somewhere and actually started. And I think we should allot Turner the same thing. Let's not, I guess, they're not always going to think about what's best for their U.S. national team prospects. Turner didn't start playing soccer till he was late teens. He was undrafted, right? He was not like a big prospect or anything. He made it up to the Revs, had a hell of a 2 seasons in a row here, and still not getting paid what others are doing overseas. So if he has that opportunity, he now has the chance to make more money, get to live a whole different experience over in England, which I think, Logan and I have talked a lot about how much we've wanted to live overseas. And I think that would be a huge pull for me if I was a player of, even though I'll be a backup, I think I can win this job in the summer and I can try to live in London. That'd be great. And then if I don't like it, I can move on, right? And try something else. But I'm also going to make more money than when I was in America. Like that's a pretty big deal. MLS is still not there yet when it comes to money. So I think he's doing what's best for him. Look, he was part of a legendary Revs team, and while they couldn't deliver MLS Cup, they won a supporter shield. He won some sort of trophy. He's able to move on from that chapter. And unfortunately, he won't win much with Arsenal. But, that's, something that maybe he sees it as another stepping stone. I'm not really sure. But I think he has to take that chance because he's kind of in an older spot than some going over there, where he has that opportunity now to really grab this chance. And if he can't win it there, but let's say he even just impresses as a backup over there, he now maybe gets a starting spot at like Norwich or a starting spot at another club that is lower in the Premier League, but Arsenal maybe even makes money off of that. And maybe that's the way that they're going to go with it. I don't know, but I think he will get some cup games and stuff. And I think he'll get some occasional games if he doesn't win the starting spot. If he wins the starting spot, then he's in a really good spot, But if not, there's other opportunities, and he's probably thinking, I came to this sport late. I, had a great 2 seasons. There's interest for me overseas. I'd love to live in England. I'd love to play for Arsenal. Let's give it a try. And then if not, goalkeepers, it's a little different. They can play for much older, for much longer. Until they're older. So his clock is not ticking as fast as others, so he can go over there and if he fails or whatever, he can come back here, and the teams will probably line up for him over here again, and he'll make even more money than he made with the Revs. So I think ultimately it's a win-win situation for Matt Turner. And I think now where I sit with Stefan is, okay, Stefan, might be your time to now move on, and I think if I'm Stefan, I see Turner going over and probably being a backup, and I say, maybe I should angle for a starting move, and I can really lock down that U.S. men's national team spot. But again, I don't know how much the players are actually thinking about that. I think I forget who had said it, but I had heard a player say, like, when he was making those decisions, it was never about, okay, what's going to do best for the U.S. national team and my prospects there, but it was more about, I think it was Casey Keller who said that during one of the broadcasts for the U.S. team for the CONCACAF qualifying, where he said, I was making decisions about my personal life and where I wanted to go and it being my career. I wasn't sitting there thinking about how does this affect my men's national team prospects. And I think that's what a lot of these players do. So maybe that's why Stefan's not pushing for a move. Maybe he thinks he's doing great and wants to just keep working with Pep and City, right? So maybe that's why Turner wanted to go over there. He wanted to experience London and make more money. I don't know. But I think he deserves the opportunity, and we'll see where he takes it from there. I know I just rambled on for so long, but your turn.
So, Emi Martinez, who was with Arsenal and was released of contract because Arsenal bought him out, I believe, is how that worked. But Emi Martinez was the starting goalkeeper. Aaron Ramsdale came and actually took the spot from him. So I do think that I really do think that Matt Turner is going to get a chance. And actually, there's a bunch of articles that just released a couple hours ago talking about the fact that Arteta really didn't have confidence in any of the goalkeepers that he had. And really, this is still going to be a constant battle. And I think that is a huge thing for Matt. Could you imagine Matt Turner wins that job, which he very well could, because he is a very good goalkeeper and probably one of the best U.S. men's goalkeepers that we'll ever have. And I do think that he does challenge Stefan. I do think, unfortunately, not unfortunately, I mean, Stefan's a really good goalkeeper, but I do think, unfortunately, he's kind of got the odds against him because I think Greg's so comfortable with Zach that I think that that's ultimately what he chooses. But again, it's all good for Matt. However, Jordan, it's not good for. It's not good for the Revs. That's one thing that I think, while it is going to be nice to see Matt move on, they really don't have much options in behind him. I think they're gonna have to go out and get somebody. So it'll be interesting to see who they kind of pluck off and see who they can bring over, because they're his backup keeper. One of them's 35 years old, and a guy that I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, Brad Knighton, Jordan, 35 years old.
Former Union keeper.
Okay,
yeah,
nice. And then Earl Edwards Jr., who didn't play in any matches last year for the Revs, a 29-year-old goalkeeper that's from the United States. Don't know much about him. It looks like
they did just sign somebody yesterday.
Okay.
Jacob Jackson.
I missed that then.
Goalkeeper. He was their first round selection in the Super Draft.
So that makes sense. But you really,
yeah.
Do you really want a 22-year-old starting?
Yeah.
Though?
Why not?
I guess. I mean, Matt Turner came from nothing. He was in the USL, like you said, Jordan. He didn't even get drafted. He just walks onto a USL team, and he wasn't even starting on the USL team. Takes over the spot, then starts 20 games, and then the Revs are like, "Hey, that kid's pretty good, so let's go sign him up."
What's funny is I just totally plucked out that Knighton was part of the Union, and it was only for 1 year.
Hey, but at least you remembered that.
I remember that because you know why? It was their first year. It was 2010. He was one of our keepers.
Nice.
Then he went to the Whitecaps. Then he's been with the Revs ever since, and he was with the Revs before the Union. So yeah. He's a long time Revs goalkeeper. And Earl Edwards Jr. He sounds familiar. Let me look at it. Oh, he used to be with Orlando. There we go. That's why.
That makes sense.
So with their first few years, and the most he played is 10 games in a season with Orlando in 2018. The second most he's played is 6 games in a season with Orlando in 2017. All other seasons he's not made an appearance, Earl Edwards Jr. So I would say right now, Brad Knighton maybe is the starter, and then you're going to have them grooming Josh Jackson is how I would take it. But Knighton is quality enough to
at least play.
Yeah. I mean, they're having Turner still right now, right? But until summer. So and that I guess we'll actually find out. I guess we'll actually find out in the summer who wins that job when he leaves.
And again, that could be a signing. That could be anything, because Jordan, the Revs are an interesting situation. I think their goal, I really do. I think their goal is to obviously win CONCACAF Champions League. I think that is the ultimate prize right now. Many will argue that no, it's MLS Cup. But I'm concerned, Jordan, and not like overly concerned where I think the Revs are going to be bad or by any stretch of the means. But I think that they've got a lot of players that have been rumored to make moves to Europe, South America. I mean, you've got DeJuan Jones, U.S. Defensive player, right? Left back. You've got Matt Turner. You've got Brandon By. You've got a Henry Kessler that I think could get a lot of attention as well. I think Adam Buxa is going to eventually move on. That's a lot of a team to just have. I mean, your outside backs, defensive backs, are pretty much gone. I mean, there was a lot of linkage over this winter about the two leaving. Neither of them did. I do think they both moved. DeJuan Jones, 23, Brandon Byes, 25. They're right now entering what they would consider the primes of their career. I don't think they finished the summer with them. I don't think there's a chance in heck that Adam Buxa stays because of all the attention that he got and how much of a need there is for strikers in Europe right now. I think there's a lot of teams looking for nines that I think he'd fit in nicely. Henry Kessler's 22. I do think he needs to take more of a step forward to really get more attention from some of the teams that he might want to go to. But I think he's got the abilities to, he's matched up well with Andrew Farrell as center backs. They've played well. I mean, this team could look totally different which is wild to me. Like this is what the MLS has become, and what we want it to become is like this team could end up being depleted midway through the season, where all they have left that you've kind of noticed are maybe one of the outside backs, maybe one of the center backs, and then hopefully a Carlos Gil that is healthy. But again, there's got to be concern, right? Like I think CCL or bust, because this team is still going to have to look very different. And Bruce is good at coaching. And we haven't even talked about the incoming, but which we'll get to right now, I guess. Bruce brought in Omar Gonzalez, former defender. Did he ever play with club level for Bruce in LA? Was he ever with Bruce, or was it just U.S. men's stuff? Omar Gonzalez. Was that just? I can't remember if that was. I thought he was with club too.
Yeah, no, he definitely.
I thought everybody brought in he'd had experience with.
Yeah, well, Omar was with the Galaxy from 2009 to 2015. Okay,
so then
he had tons of games
and some
with
CCL
Bruce
stuff with him.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you had him, and then Jordan. Two additions that I'm pumped for, and I'm really excited to see how this works out with Bruce. Sebastian Lletget, who I think is a pretty good replacement as far as midfield. He's not going to be Tajon Buchanan. Nobody's going to be Tajon Buchanan. That kid's going to be really good. But at least it's experience in the midfield, and he's very successful in this league. He's known for having success in this league. And then Jordan, the one I'm most excited for, that I really want him to do well. I really do. I want him to make it as hard as possible for Greg to look and go, you know what? Nah, we're good. I want Josie Altidore to have some remnants of the seasons that he's been capable of. And you got to see him in the prime. Jordan, I only got to watch him through the World Cups because that was my only attachment to MLS and U.S. men's national team, was watching, casually as a U.S. men's national team fan. But as I've gotten more into it, I'm jealous that I never got to see Josie in his prime. The only time I ever did that I thought he was going to tear up the World Cup was when he came up playing, and it was the hamstring issue, which was awful. But what do you think? I mean, do you think there's chances for Bruce to get these guys going again? Because I feel like their careers are kind of coming down off the top. Is there a place for this team, and can they do well?
I think he can get Lletget going. I mean, I feel like he's the Lletget whisperer at times. I mean, those were his best years were when Bruce was there, I feel. Now, when it comes to Josie, I'm a little bit more reluctant, just injury history-wise, for Josie. Josie, what was it, last year when we had Josie in the January camp, and he had to leave for injury then, and then we also had his weird exchange with Twellman on Twitter. So I think that he would be more of a – I think he could have a good MLS season. I don't know if he's – I think it's more 50-50 at this point. Maybe 75-25 of leaning no, just because of his injuries. But I mean, I hope he does. I would really hope for Josie to put on a big show. But if we look at his history of, let me just pull it up real quick. I wasn't prepared for.
I've got him here. He hasn't made here, Jordan. He hasn't played a full season I don't think ever. And the last one I think might have been close to was 2017. That's when he played close to probably a whole season.
Okay, so let's look at his goal totals. Okay. So his best season was that 2012-2013 at AZ Alkmaar, where he put 23 goals in. And that was peak Josie. The year before that, he had 15. Then he had some rough stints with Villarreal, Bursaspor, Hull City before that. In MLS, though, when he was 16, he only had 3 goals. When he was 17, he only had 9. And when he was 18, he only had 3. So he really developed at the Eredivisie. Then he went to Sunderland and only scored 1 goal in his 2 years there, which was 42 games and only 21 starts. Then you have when he comes back to Toronto and he scores 13 goals in 2015, 10 goals in 2016, 15 goals in 2017 when they won Supporter Shield, 7 goals in 2018, 11 in 2019, and 2 goals in 2020 and 4 goals in 2021. So hasn't had a good season since 2019. Hasn't had a great season since 2017. I don't know how much he's going to start for them either, I guess, for the Revs. So depends on what his output's looking like. Last year, he only had 8 starts. He played 16 games. We also know that there was that weird period where, for whatever reason, Chris Armas was completely not playing him, and that caused a rift there that after Armas left, they picked up his option, which is how he has now been traded to or released, bought out, and then went to the Revs. So it's going to be a rough one for him. He's 31, or he was 31 last year. He's probably turning 32 he is 32 since November. So he's 32, injury history. It depends on what Revs are asking for him. If the goal is to have him come off the bench every so often, he's going to score 6 to 8 goals a year. That would be great for him, and I think he could do it. I don't think that's getting him caught up into the U.S. team. I don't think that that's doing anything there. But if he can stay healthy and just put 8 to 10 goals if he's playing a lot of games, 6 to 8 if he's not featured as much, I think that is a good season for Josie when you're looking at the numbers of he's only scored 6 goals in the last 2 seasons.
I'm thinking 20 goals. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think you're right. Like it's going to come sparingly. It's going to come when Adam Buksa can't play. It'll be interesting to see what the Revs do when Buksa does move on in the summer. I do believe that's happening. Like I believe if I had to put a bet on anybody leaving the league in the summer, it would be Adams Buksa. Like 100%, I feel like he's already got a contract, whether it be Leicester or wherever he was rumored to go before. I do think that that's coming. So it'll be interesting to see what Josie fills in. And I know we can't spend too much more time on the Revs, but I do obviously want to ask about Carlos Gil. Jordan, is he your favorite to win MVP this year? Like, is he, if you had to pick anybody in the league right now, and I know we haven't really gone through the other previews and stuff, but is he one of your top, let's just say, is he in your top 3 for guys that'll win MVP this year?
Buksa?
No. Carlos Gil.
Oh, Carlos Gil. Yeah, he's got to be a favorite. I was going to say, if you said Buksa, I was like, no.
Is Henry Kessler an MVP candidate, Jordan?
Yeah. No, I do think Gil has a shot, but I don't know. I feel like it's rarely back-to-back MVPs. Yeah. I'm going to lean more towards a no that we'll have back-to-back MVPs for Carlos Gil. Because I think it's going to be a player on whoever wins Supporter Shield, and I don't think they're going to. So if I'm looking at it, I'm thinking somebody along the lines of a
Hani
Mukhtar, or who should have won it anyway, or a.
I could see Magno winning it from NYCFC. I mean, if Castellano stays I mean, it sounds like they're just being stubborn about prices for Castellanos. So I do think he's going to be here, but I do think Tice Magno could definitely put his name in. I do think you're going to have Arango from the LAFC. That's also going to kind of throw his name in there. So
I don't know. I think if we're looking at MVPs, which we'll talk about in our prediction show, I guess, I'm thinking, who looks really good as that is like somebody like Arango on LAFC.
Jordan Morris.
No, I don't think Jordan Morris is going to win MVP. I feel like if anything, it's going to be a midfielder that's a very
at a top team
playmaker.
Yeah.
So it could be somebody.
Daniel Gazdag.
It really depends. Yeah, no. It really depends on how it, I guess, shakes out for MVP is very hard to guess because
team.
I don't think I would have guessed Hani Mukhtar to start, and I feel like he's my MVP in my heart. So I feel like I would not have guessed that. So it's going to be tough. It's all about being on a good team and contributing lots of assists and goals, and those things just vary so wildly. I'll have to think more about it before the predictions and come up with a really good MVP. But I do not think it'll be Helian.
New England, not a supporter shield, so you obviously don't have them as the best team in the league. Are they the best team in the East in your mind? Still?
No.
Okay. I mean, we can do that predictions. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think
I know who you're thinking about.
I think they're losing a lot, right? So I think it's going to be a tough year because they're probably going to lose some people in the summer. Will the Revs bring in people? I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I mean, and then you have to hit on the people you bring in. Soccer is so tough with that because, but also so blessed with that, I guess, because you have the possibility to bring in so many players. Like if you're a bad baseball team, it's like, okay, we have to draft and they have to take 5 years of developing or whatever to get here. That's not the case with this. You can just go out and be like, okay, who's hot in South America right now? Let's buy them, But then they have to hit when they get here. Like everybody freaked out about Barco coming here and Brenner coming here, and then they didn't really hit that well. So it will be tough. You can't guarantee they're going to be all heels and buxas when they get here.
Yeah.
So that'll be tough for them. But we'll see how it goes. But no, I don't think that they win the East, and I don't think they win Supporter Shield.
I'll agree with you on that one. All right, let's do NYCFC because we this will probably be an hour and a half anyway. I was banking on that because we have so many teams. But so NYCFC last night, Jordan took the pitch, and like I said, I was really impressed with the way that they played. I thought they played with great possession, much like the City Group football teams do, controlling possession, keeping the ball at your feet. Tice Magno playing extremely well. Thiago playing really well. Maxi Morales played really well. He actually played. I thought he was out with COVID, and that's what I mentioned on my preview. So having him was a boost. Santiago Rodriguez was good when he was in. Picked up that red card, which was absolute crap. I'll keep continuing to say that. But then, I will say, NYCFC, Jordan, I can already tell you what their weakness is going to be. It's going to be right down the spine. I think they've got a kid named Martins that I believe is coming in from Brazil. That is a center back, but he's a young project. So he's not quite, he's physical. But center backs, man, like you said, this league is so tough for newcomers, but especially defenders, I feel. You look at Calvo, who was with the Fire. He was a disaster. And he was one of these guys that, people were projecting this guy was going to be an absolute force in the back line of Chicago, but he's just never panned out, and he left. A guy that plays for his national team. Now you look at you look at Martins, and I think you've got kind of a similar situation where this kid's still trying to learn the league and trying to get an understanding of how he's going to play in this league. Can he be, the physical force that they want him to be? He comes from Yokohama, which is the City Group. I believe that's one of the Asian. I want to guess Japan because that sounds Japanese, but I could totally be off. That's really, if you're looking at signings, the rest of them are homegrown. That's their only signing, Jordan. They lose Jesus Medina. Jesus Medina had a fantastic year last year and a deserving move out. So he's gone. James Sands, is a huge loss. Like that's a massive loss. Loaned him out to Rangers, 18 months. And I think has a good chance to make some noise with U.S. men's national team as far as depth as the years go on, because I do think James will eventually become really good. But they're, again, last night, Jordan, I can honestly tell you their attack is going to be bloody brilliant. If Tati leaves, then obviously I think they're going to take a step backwards a little bit, which is good news for the rest of the teams in the East, because this team looked, I mean, yes, it was Santos de Guapiles, but they looked so dominant. I mean, it looked like it was not even a match, even with how sloppy they play out back. They've got one of the best goalkeepers in MLS, but Jordan, the spine, I think that's the biggest concern. If they can get Chanot to play well, and you can get a guy like Thiago Martins to come in and play extremely well, and then they've got Collins also back there, Alexander Collins, who plays pretty well. So, some veteran and experienced players mixed in with the young kid that's going to be learning the ropes. I think they've got to fix that, because Zalalem played extremely well. He played well last year in MLS Cup. And then you've got Acevedo, who's going to come in and give you really good minutes of experience, but still I think it's a little bit weaker without Sands. Should be fun. That was a ramble, but I just want to tell you what I saw. Everything was freaking octane last night. Like, it was like they were firing on all cylinders early, and then again, their center backs kind of are like, "What? We don't really know what's going on." Tavon Gray,
I think they're a favorite to win the East. NYCFC, so? Yeah. I think, again, if I look at the top four of last year, looking at the Revs, who I think are dropping off. You have Philly, who right now still can't get their DP striker in due to visa issues right now. So he's probably not going to join them right away. Mm-hmm. You have Nashville, who left, and you have NYCFC. It's prime for NYCFC to step up and do it. They won the East in 2019. 2020, they weren't even close. But 2021, 22 points back, but they're only 3 points back of Philly in second. So that's kind of they've been consistently in the top half. Atlanta, I think, we've talked about their prospects. They sit tied with NYCFC on points, but right below them in the table. And then you have Orlando right below them too. I don't know. I think out of all those teams, NYCFC is the team to beat in the East, especially if they keep Castellanos. If they keep Castellanos for the whole year, then the East is in some trouble. Yeah. But I think it'll be a closer East than it was last year. I don't think any team's running away with it by 20-some points. So I do think that'll be, while I do think they're the favorite and potentially do win the East, I do think that it's going to be closer. It's not going to be a huge gap that we've seen, just because I think all of these teams are just really close in quality right now. Each of these teams have brought in and lost people that, are going to make a difference. And yeah, I don't know. I think Orlando, you might see a little bit of a rebound. We'll talk about them when we preview them, but Red Bulls, I think probably not going to be as high as they were last year or right around that. So I don't know. I look at all this. I think the Hudson River is going to be blue, and you're going to have NYCFC a very good shot for the top of the East.
So here's what I didn't even mention, Jordan. One, Thiago didn't even play last night. Like Thiago Martins and Thiago, their attacking player that was one of their best players last year. You also didn't have Abear, who's back from injury, who didn't really play a lot last year, but was really good in this league before, if people don't remember. Very good striker, could replace Tati, could get 10 to 15, 20 goals. I think that's doable. 10 to 15, I would say, is more realistic. They're also missing Keaton Parks, who had a blood clot removed, and he actually got to play last night. Keaton Parks, Jordan, you and I were talking about this. Keaton Parks was one of those guys that, and I think, he was the one that had experience in Europe in the past, but there were still teams looking back at him going, this kid's got talent. Like, this guy's got talent. He might not be, as flashy and good as James Sands, but I do think he's got that same kind of ability. He's a really good addition. He came off the bench last night. And then they're missing their best player in Anton Tennerholm, who I think, last year when he was healthy, whenever he's healthy, Anton Tennerholm is one of the best backs in this league. coming up the field in the attack. He makes life miserable in that short little stadium that they have. So again, I'm like you, Jordan. I think, and I don't want to spoil it, but I think the way you and I are speaking of it, they should be. They're the MLS Cup winners. They should be the team to knock off, and they definitely are the team to knock off. This team's so deep, so talented, and boy, do they have a wealth of riches. Not only on the pitch but also in the pocket. I mean, I know, with City Football Group, if they sell Castellanos, it's going to be minutes before they're out there signing like Cristiano Ronaldo to come play striker or something crazy. So it's, they're waiting for something like that to fall in their lap. I think they get it. I think Castellanos will be there until the summer. Maybe they have a hard time selling him because it does seem the asking price is up over 20 million or something crazy. So it should be pretty fun to kind of follow that situation in NYCFC this year.
All right, who's next?
All right, Jordan, let's do it. Let's talk about the West. Colorado Rapids, another team that is this one's going to be weird because there's a lot that I want to say about them. But I mean, I'll just kind of list their departures, and then Jordan, you can kind of talk to some of these departures because I think they're huge departures. And I want to see what you're thinking because I've got my thoughts on the Rapids. I want to see what you're thinking. So here are the departures. I'll read them out for you. All right, Sam Vines, gone. Callan Costa, gone. Don Baji, gone. Eunice Nomley, gone. And Cole Bassett, gone. They're also going to be missing Austin Trusty in the summer, who was one of their better defenders. They're also going to be missing Brian Galvin, who was one of their best midfielders. So you've got one of these guys, you got all these guys moving on. And the Rapids were the lowest spending club last year. Jordan, if you hear those names and you know their history with spending, there's got to be some concern in Colorado, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. I mean, look, let's not forget that they were
number one in the West last year.
Number one in the West, yeah, but they really only got there due to, I feel like, every team in the West not wanting to finish first. There really was like so many opportunities for Seattle and SKC to wrap it up and just couldn't. Now, you have to give props to Colorado for doing that. They won it by 1 point, though, and they have the cheapest roster in the league, and I think that is the main problem, right? If you lose those players that you mentioned, and you're not going to bring in players good enough to replace them, it can only go on for so long. I look at this and I look at how the Union used to operate before Jim Curtin or before Ernst Tanner, really. Before Ernst Tanner came in, where he was finding gems to be able to turn in and bring in players in and working with the youth. Before that, it was a lot of like, let's put out this bare bones team that we didn't want to pay any money for because our owner's cheap, and let's hope that we make the playoffs. And that's how I kind of feel like it is. I feel like they have a good coach that coached up some good players, but then they get rid of those players, and now I really don't think they've brought anybody in to replace those. And now we look and say, okay, well, where do they go from here? I don't think they're finishing in the top of the West. I think most people would say, I meant first, but I think most people would agree that they're not going to finish in first place in the West this year. And I'm not saying it was a fluke or anything like that. It's just, if you lose those players, don't bring them in, then I feel like you got worse, which means you're going to drop some of those points that you had gained, which means you're going to fall a little further down. Which means you're left in a very precarious position about what to do. They had a low attendance last year, so maybe that's why they feel like they can't spend. Maybe they don't think that they're getting the people in to spend. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, their owner is, Stan Kroenke, right?
Yeah.
So they can spend.
But they won't spend.
But he's too worried about the Rams and Arsenal and stuff like that.
Is he really worried about Arsenal, though, Jordan?
He's worried about the money it's printing. I don't think that's why Trusty's going over there, right? I mean,
because he's a big draw in Europe.
It's just I'm just saying it's just moving one piece from your one. It's like moving money from the bank accounts.
Yeah,
right. That's what he just did. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried about them going into this year. They have some good players, obviously, but I do worry that next year will be a little rough for them. They started off against LAFC away from home. So that's worrying if I'm a Rapids fan, because I feel like LAFC is kind of retooled. We'll see. Again, we've talked about it, the Trundalo question mark, right? We'll see how that goes. But I don't know. I do worry about where they go. I'm looking at where they can finish, because looking at the West right now, they finished first. I'd like to think Seattle and SKC are probably going to rebound. They're probably going to be the ones again that are going to face off for 1 and 2. I think
Nashville's there.
Nashville's over there now.
Portland's always good.
We'll see what type of sanctions they may face for any sort of behaviors. I don't know. Probably none, because I feel like that's the way it's been going.
Especially with him.
Minnesota, it's a question mark. We don't really know how much they're going to improve. And then you have Vancouver and Salt Lake that were in the 6 and the 7. I think you can almost replace Vancouver and Salt Lake with the 2 LA teams.
That's what I was thinking too.
And then you have to see, okay, does Austin do any better than last year? Does San Jose kick another gear?
Colorado and Dallas, man. Come on.
I think Colorado can make the playoffs again. I think they're going to drop from – I think – okay, here it is. Record this, Rapids fans, and throw it in my face when I'm wrong. I say no home playoff game.
Chris Smith agreed with you.
So they're out of the top 4. That's what I have.
Chris Smith had him at 6th, because I read his preview today because he dropped it.
There you go. So me and Chris are in agreement. I don't have him at 6. I just have him anywhere outside the top 4. So 5 through 7. I'll figure it out when we do our prediction where I exactly put them. But I think they make the playoffs, but drastically drop. And again, it could be very close. I mean, if you look at the West last year, even it was those first 4 spots were just 6 points apart. So it's closer. It's 2 games for them to finish 4th, and then a few more losses to finish 5th. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I kind of have them at.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Not a home playoff team. That's a lot of guys that they have to replace, and those are really good players. Kellen Acosta started to play extremely well, and I think ultimately has really thrown his name in the competition for somebody that could replace Tyler Adams in this next World Cup qualifying window, because I don't think Tyler will be back. I'm just going to guess based on the injury that he won't be back, and I think Kellen plays a huge role. I think right now, Jordan, I think if you look at the U.S. men's national team, he's probably number 1 off the bench, right? Like, I think with the way that he played in the last window, I think you're looking at a guy, if you're trying to control the midfield and you need Tyler to have a break, or you need one of these guys in the midfield to have a break, I think that's where it comes from, is Kellen Acosta. Losing him to LAFC is nuts. The fact that he's going to now go join LAFC, who I think had one of the best off seasons, if not the best, barring Insigne and how he does here. They lose Don Badji to Cincinnati, who's played well. Eunice Nomley heads back over to Europe. And then Cole Bassett heading over to Feyenoord. How do you say that? I don't even know. Feyenoord, something like that.
It's Feyenoord.
Yeah. He scored the other day too, Jordan, for their academy team, though. But again, those are really good pieces that they're missing. Their defense was really sound last year, which I think that really carried them. And unfortunately, I'm looking at these guys. Jack Price is amazing in the defensive midfield, and I think that's what makes them very successful. But any regression from Jack, this team regresses, because I'm not sure that, they got Abubakar, they've got Rosenberry, they've got Yarborough in goal, Danny Wilson in the defense as well. Depending on, usually they're in that back 3 or with the 2 side, like they're playing pretty well. But I see them regressing, and if they regress, this team gets worse, because their attack at times just looks stagnant because they have no goal scorers. That's another thing. Who's going to score for them? Is it going to be Shinyashiki? Is it going to be Barrios, who really caps out at 8 goals wherever he goes. It doesn't matter. You can get excited about all you want. Barrios is like an 8 to 9 goal guy, and that's all you're going to really get. Jonathan Lewis, we've seen that experiment that just doesn't go as well as you really want it to. You want Jonathan to do well, but he's now going to be 24. He needs to make those progressions that he's not making, I don't think, to be a top striker, or midfielder at that, any kind of forward. Shinyashiki, 4 goals last season. Besides that, man, Diego Rubio, 5 goals in 26 matches. Like, this team is going to be starving for a number 9, and they don't have any money. They said they're going to bring in one, but like, you can't. Like, striker is one place you can't go cheap. You can't find the cheap option for a striker, and we've learned that in this league. You'll see what happens to some of these teams that try to find a cheap option. Love Tesho to death, but Tesho is not a premier striker, and if we're looking to have him be the answer, that's not the answer. Luckily, we got somebody in, but yeah, this team really, Mark Anthony Kay, I'm excited for that. I think that he's really good. He's really stepped in. I think he needs to perform well to be able to get into the Canada side and really play well this year for Canada. And Canada's going to be in the World Cup. So looking forward to that. But other than that, Jordan, I think this team progresses. I think this team's going to go back down towards the mean about, I want to say 6 to 8, depending. And it could be worse if one of those defenders get hurt.
Interesting.
Let's do it, man. Let's move on.
Seattle, right?
For this one, yeah. This one's
exciting.
It? Yeah.
Is this the last one?
This is it.
All right. And let's talk Seattle.
Let's do it. This is fun because like I said, I haven't been in this league when Seattle has been like the guys. Like, I'd always grown up knowing that on MLS, if I chose MLS on FIFA, this is who I played with. But I'm looking forward to this. Jordan, can you kind of tell me, if you're looking back at the time of the Sounders, have they ever been this deep? They add Albert Rusnak, and now Jordan Morris is back, and now they look like one of the most stacked teams that's ever donned the field. Can you remember a time where the Sounders have ever been like this good, at least on paper?
It's a good question. On paper, probably not.
Yeah.
But I will say the more fun times were the Dempsey, Obafemi Martins times.
Right.
Those two just had an electric relationship, chemistry is what I was looking for there.
Yeah.
But yeah, adding Rusnak and like you said, Morris is back from injury. Ladero and Reed Diaz, like, really. Yeah. They're probably going to get money from Nuhu because of his outstanding showing at AFCON. Like, this team has a lot going on with it, and really, I look at it and say they should be the favorites of the West. They're keeping Metzer as the coach. He knows this team very well. I think they announced Montero's coming back as well. Yep. So, I mean, they are. This is a deep team. This is a team that can make a run and make another MLS Cup final. And if I'm picking a team in the Cascadia region to keep up appearances, because we've had however many straight seasons in a row with the Cascadia team in the final, it would be Seattle. And I think I probably would put them first in the West right now.
This isn't going to be a Columbus situation, though, right? Like, these players,
they won't underperform that much. They're not going to miss the playoffs.
Like, this
if
team
they
is 2
underperform,
seasons.
It'll be second or third. They're not going to be out of the playoffs.
Right. Because I felt like Columbus, now that I look back on it in retrospect, and I know, like, I can say this all I want, no, I'm blue in the face, and people won't believe me, but I do think, like, when you look at the Columbus team now and you look at this roster now, if you're comparing them, Jordan, I think the biggest thing is that, like, these guys have proven they can do it and do it consistently all the time and have been in this league for a very long time. And I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, these guys are all in their primes, 26, 28, 27, 29, 31, 35, 33. Like, these guys are seasoned veterans. They've been around this league. They've been around other leagues. They've been successful in other leagues. But gosh, man, if you look at this roster, it is so deep. It just is baffling to me. And now I kind of feel like I kicked myself for last year just because they were nowhere close to being that good last year at Columbus. But Albert Rusnak, man, like, that's an unbelievable signing. I don't know, besides the Insigne, which we just keep referencing, really actually comes over and proves that he's actually that good. The Albert Rusnak one is a total sleeper. 11 goals, 7 assists. And you throw him in there with Jordan Morris, the Roldans, JP. I mean, Rui Diaz, Freddie Montero, Will Bruin. Like, you just got – it just keeps going and going and going. And then you got Nuhu, Stephen Fry. I mean, these guys, unbelievable. Speechless. I want to ask you this, though, Jordan. Does your namesake, Jordan, does he make the World Cup roster? And do you think Jordan Morris can return to 2020, 2019 Jordan Morris?
I would lean probably more no for the World Cup roster. I think we have a lot of wingers that deserve to be called in. When you look at Conrad, and when you look at, even bringing in an attacker like Pfok, even though he doesn't really play on the wing, but you can only have so many attackers on a roster. You have Brendan Pulisic, Gio. I mean, Timmy. I don't know. It's a lot. It's going to be tough for Morris. Looking at last year and looking at Jordan Morris's numbers from last year, he only played 2 matches, no starts, so no goals, no assists. Looking at 2020, 18 starts, 7 assists, 10 goals. Pretty good. I just don't know if that's enough to cut it. It depends on how everybody else is doing. If he's putting those type of numbers up, he has a shot. And I'd say he has a shot because Greg clearly kind of favors form and people he has relationships with prior. So I do think he would have a shot in that regard. But he has to stay healthy, and that's something that he has continually struggled with as well.
Well, we did it. I think we did it, Jordan. We got through all 5 teams. Those are the teams currently in CONCACAF. Sounders play tomorrow, Thursday. So, well, I guess maybe you're listening to this on Thursday. So they play today, and they're playing Motuga. Motuga. I don't even know how to say that. They play at 10 p.m. Eastern time. I believe it's all on FS2, just like it had been. The Rapids play tomorrow, and I believe their game's the 8 o'clock one, if I can remember correctly, because I was looking earlier. Let me check just to make sure. No, sorry, they play at 7 p.m. tomorrow against Comunicaciones, which I think, Jordan, they can beat. I think that's a pretty easy matchup if you're looking at a bunch of the other teams that are in CONCACAF from what I previewed. So I don't know. It looks good for the MLS teams, at least for this first round. The second round is going to be a bear, just because of the teams that they're going to have to go up against, and 2 of our own are competing against one another if they move on. So should be a good time.
Looking forward to it. So like I said, we're 9 days, technically 10, but we're like 9 days and some hours right now from when we're recording it to the start of the season, which is the Saturday, right? Or do we have any games before that?
We do not. Saturday, the Union are the first
26th.
game, man.
Yes.
The first match.
Are we really? We're like the first game for everybody?
First game at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Because when they first announced it, there was no time for it.
I think you said eventually, I think you did find out a time, because I think I remember you saying, oh man, we're the first ones out of the gate. Or maybe they just had you guys there and then they announced the times. You know what I mean? Like they announced it. Like you guys were on the graphic first.
We were TBD. Yeah. We were TBD, and I thought that meant we were going to be a national game, which was not the case.
They're trying to find a channel for you guys. So I think they're like showing it on Twitch or something.
ESPN Plus.
Oh, sorry.
We got our Twitter game is LAFC in Colorado on that Saturday. And then we have Fox with Portland, New England. Those are the national games. The other games are all on ESPN Plus. So yeah, let's just talk real quick these Saturday games, I guess. Just to remind everybody, the season starts on the 26th. Philly and Minnesota at 1 o'clock. Crew in Vancouver at 3:30. LAFC in Colorado at 3:30. Dallas and Toronto at 5:30. Austin and Cincy at 6. DC versus Charlotte at 6. Miami and Chicago at 6. San Jose Red Bulls at 6. And Portland, New England at 7:30. The Sunday games, the 27th, Orlando versus Montreal at 1 o'clock. Atlanta 3 o'clock versus SKC. That's on FS1. LA Galaxy versus NYCFC on ESPN at 5 o'clock. Houston versus RSL at 7. And Seattle versus Nashville at 8 o'clock. Some good matchups there. And no midweek games then. We'll go right to the following weekend for more games. So
actually, I think that I want to say second leg of Champions Leagues next week, I believe.
Well, I meant no. Wait, well, I don't know, but on here it doesn't have that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Champions League's next week. Yeah, second leg's next week. Sorry, not that week.
Okay.
It's next week before these games on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Which will be interesting because I think there will be some guys that won't play in the openers. So that'll be kind of.
I just realized I'm probably gonna miss some of the Sunday games.
I'm off on Monday that week, so that'll be great. I'm off Friday and Monday of this week, and then the following Monday I took off so I could, if I wanted to go to the Orlando games, I didn't have to dread going into work the next day.
That game's at 1 o'clock.
Hey, you never know. Okay, that could be lightning.
Get home at 3 p.m. and be like,
Sure.
I just cannot go to work the next
Listen
day.
here, okay, man. It's summer again. It's like 90. But no, I think, Jordan, the next couple of clubs, I can give you the clubs that I think we're going to do next, just so you're ready for them.
Yeah.
Just so that we can kind of get a head start. So I'm looking at the standings currently because I'm trying to figure out, okay, Logan, how many teams do we have to do? We still have to do Chicago. We still have to do Columbus. We still have to see DC United. We have to do Red Bull. And we also have to do Orlando and Toronto. So those are 6 clubs. I think this worked out well. 5, like 4 or 5. I think we should just do 5 so we don't have that much to record. So I think next episode, Jordan, what we'll do, because I think this will be the best way to do this, is we're going to have to leave one of the clubs for to kind of bunch them in with the West. So I figured why not bunch in Toronto with the West side, because I think Toronto in and of itself will be a massive preview anyway. So let's just put them with the Western teams. So let's do next episode you guys are going to listen to. We're going to be previewing Chicago, Columbus, DC United, Red Bull, and Orlando City.
All right.
That's the next episode.
Sounds good. Bring it on. Week and a half away from the season kicking off. Cannot wait to share our second full season with everyone here. So back to some night driving music.
Jordan, do you think that the Cascadia Cup is ultimately just, you know what, I'm not even going to come up with a line because Seattle's going to win it anyway, so why not? Spencer all the way, Spencer for president, a god amongst little boys.
There you go, you heard it from Logan right there. But we will see you on next. If you want to give us a follow on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, or email us stateside show@gmail.com. And just listen to music play us out.